The COVID pandemic has caused so much loss, not just in terms of job losses or illnesses, but more significantly, emotional loss due to people dying. The death of a loved one is one of the most difficult emotional experiences that we can have in life. The pain and grief can seem totally overwhelming. Being bereaved can be an extremely lonely time. Talking with friends and family can be one of the most helpful ways to cope after someone close to us dies. One of the particular challenges of loss during the COVID-19 pandemic is that the bereaving individuals have to stay away from friends and family. In this film, we seek to hear from some of those bereaving individuals about their experience of the loss of a loved one, how they are coping, and what they feel about anti-COVID vaccines not being available to their loved ones before they succumb to this infection.
First of all, I would like to say that the pandemic not only has changed people's life, but also has taken away lives of people that we love and we care and we never will forget them. The first person I lost to COVID was my best friend since my childhood. She just gone to hospital when she got the COVID, and she lasted for 4 days. That for me, it was really a shock because she was like a family for us and she helped a lot to my mom. Another person who I lost dearly, and really he was part of our family bubble, it was my brother-in-law. My best friend was a female called Violeta Ugaz, and unfortunately, she left her family behind.
For me, he was not just my father, he was my mentor. So all the life skills that I have, or the person that I am today, is because of him. It's his examples and his true examples he left, not just as my father, but as a human being. He always said that, look, do the best you can in everything that you do, but the most important thing that you must do is to serve humanity. He said, this is what our name Awan means, to serve humanity. So you must follow in these footsteps, same footsteps that he must have learned from his father, because my grandfather was the same kind of man. Again, my father spent a lot of time with his father. So naturally, these great things that he had, the personality that he had, he passed it down, and indirectly he was passing them over to me. And I'm very thankful for that I got to learn a lot of the beautiful traits that my father had.
Oh, my mother, you mean? My mother was a very, very happy-go-lucky woman, and she was always very jolly. And the best memory I have from my mother, she always used to say, whatever Allah does for the best. And she had belief in her Lord, and she had always a smile on her face. And that's the character that I developed from my mother, that even in my hard days I always smile, because a smile is a form of charity, and that gives anybody happiness. So the best memory of my mother with me is that she always told me to be happy.
So during the time that we spent at my sister-in-law's, Marhuma Shirin Bai, I used to call her Shirin Bai, she was not just the best of cooks. She used to cook for the community in our mosque in Peterborough. She was a volunteer. She also was a chair lady in her community for many, many years. She used to cook for families, for the mosque. And one of the favorites that I always enjoyed was her biryani, the Asian style, the cuisines, and she was very, very good. And she also appreciated when we loved her cooking and praised her. And she really, really appreciated our words and our gestures. She was very passionate about family values, and she gave a lot of attention to each one of us when we were in her presence. She was very devoted to religion, and she was a very God-conscious soul. She did a lot of charity. She did a lot of voluntary works. She was the head of the burial committee in the ladies. She taught women how to all the tools and the techniques of providing sisters when they want to perform the ghusl and the coffin, shrouding the woman. So she was also there training, and she spent more than 40 years serving her Peterborough community, the Husseini Islamic Center in Peterborough.
Experts say that by having the vaccine, fewer people will get COVID-19. Some people may still get COVID-19 despite the vaccine, but they will be far less likely to go to hospital or to die. So we do trust in God alone, not in any vaccine, but we have to take all precautions and do our bit by taking the vaccine first. As well as protecting you, vaccines also help to protect your family, friends, and other people you meet.
It's not far she left us. It's only a few weeks ago that she's no more. But all the good things she taught, right from the childhood, right to the adulthood, even after marriage, was all the positive things. All the positive things. Never to be negative. Never ever. And that is the best thing, I could remember, and I'm passing on to my children as well. So, when you learn something good, you pass good to others, isn't it? And not only my children, even to anybody, my friends, my relatives, my community, and the place I live in my society. I try to pass that positivity, because that is what I have learned. And that's what my upbringing is, to be positive in life. So, mashallah, yes.
I just cannot express the shock to our system. It was almost like surreal, and I felt like, no, this is not the truth. I was really, I couldn't just stomach the news when we found out. It was early morning that she passed away. It was Fajr time in Peterborough at home. She wanted to be with her family, her son, Mohammed, and her daughter-in-law, and her daughters, who were there for literally more than a month next to her, the mother.
Unfortunately, he was a bit concerned of the first symptoms of the COVID, but he just took it easy. Like everything for him was take it easy in a nice and positive way. And amazing, he was looking after my mom, which is 93 years old, the weekends. He contacted COVID with his brother and his nephew in a shop. Unfortunately, we fought all the way and we lost it in 3 weeks. I was in London when I received the news, and to be honest, I just screamed at the restaurant, because the sadness it was that none of his children, no my sister, was able to join him at his last moment, because he was in Peru and his family was in Miami. That was sad. And to this moment, I think still the pain doesn't go, because I feel sad for my sister, my nephew, and me, my cousins, and for all the family. We love him so much because he did so much for my mom, and we are very grateful for him. He's in my prayers every night.
The day she passed away, I felt like it was almost like we had lost a shelter, a kind of a roof over our head. She was the pillar of our family. She was there to glue everyone together, and it was almost like I just couldn't find myself accepting her death. but death is inevitable. Death is a reality. And she was such a godly soul.
I remember we were working here on one Friday evening, and he said, "Look, I don't feel very well," and so he left home and he phoned me up in the evening. He said, "Look, I've actually got fever now." He had a bit of a cough, and then that developed into a fever. And he said, "Look, I don't want anybody to come see me. I'm going to self-isolate myself in the house." So naturally we were very upset, but he knew what he had to do, and he was in the house, just him and my mother, and he was isolated into a room, and gradually he was just getting worse and worse.
We as family, you see, he was very health conscious. He used to exercise, eat his berries, all his fruits and everything. So we knew no matter what, he'll be fine. Our father, he'll be fine. He was Iron Man. Everybody that knew him knew he was mentally very positive. He was physically very, very fit. And I mean, you couldn't tell what he was, his age. Everybody used to comment on how young he was looking.
I used to think, we were brothers sitting
Yes,
here.
absolutely.
And this is a guy who would get up every morning, come rain, snow,
No matter
he'd be
what.
out there cycling 10 miles every
yeah.
single morning.
In light of the ongoing rollout of the vaccine, it is imperative that communities have access to correct public health information, resources and guidance. To help with this, the Austro Fair Share Foundation, OFSF, with its programme partners Faiths Forum for London, FFL, the International Centre for Integration and Cohesion, ICIC, and other cross-sector organisations, have developed a programme to work with communities to support the uptake of public health messaging. The focal communities of this programme are those from BAME backgrounds, given the disproportionate effect of the pandemic on minority ethnic groups.
We still had it in our
still-
mind that he's
yeah.
such a strong and fit man that if anyone can get through it, would
He'll
be him.
get through it, yeah.
So yeah, they sedated him on Sunday, and then we had the call early hours Wednesday morning that we don't think your father's going to make it through the night, and you may want to come and say your final goodbyes to your father. And that was tough, I was the next of kin, so I was invited onto the COVID ward and donned into all the gear that they'd provided with, and I sat with my father for 3 hours, and I wasn't really saying my final goodbye to him because I still had it in me that these people don't know how strong my dad actually is, and he will get through this. But it was sad, leaving the COVID ward that evening, and then the following morning getting a call that they needed my permission to turn the machines off, which at point my mom wasn't aware of any of this because she was suffering COVID symptoms herself.
And the other person that I lost 2 months ago, it was my brother. He was a doctor. Unfortunately, your profession in my country is very difficult because even the doctors in Peru doesn't have the facility to have the vaccine. And he did have COVID, I believe, in November last year, and he was okay. But this time, he didn't realize how bad he was. And when he realized how bad he was, he refused to go to hospital thinking he would be okay. And unfortunately, it was too late. I believe it was too late when he went to hospital. And in spite of his son, especially who is becoming a doctor very soon as well, Brian, they did everything possible. But unfortunately, a warrior of the pandemic, a doctor, my brother Daniel Bazan, lost his life.
It was Wednesday morning in UK because she was in India. She was not in UK. She was miles far away. So that day I was a bit restless. 2 days ago, I don't know, my daughter was sitting here and I was telling her that I'm not getting very good vibes because she had a bit of illness. That was not a massive illness she had. She had just a small tooth abscess, and that was the reason for her death, to be honest, which in this world, in this modern times, people wouldn't even imagine about it, that just a tooth abscess will go that far. But when we were in contact with her, and she was just poorly for a few days, and when my when I got the news that she's poorly, I was really making lots of prayer for her. Obviously, she's my mom and she's miles apart from me. Lots of prayers I was making for her. And then because I wanted to divert myself from the fact that she is poorly, so I started cooking that day, because I had to go for a meeting somewhere at 1 o'clock, and it was 11ish. So I completed my cooking. My cleaner was here. She was doing ironing and the cleaning bit. And then I just told her that I'm going to check upon that I've closed all the stoves. And then the phone bell rang of my brother that my mom is no more. And that rings in my head all the time. Whenever I close my eyes, that word, nothing others, because, after that so many things happened, people comforting me and this and that. But that word, that my mother is no more, it's very, very difficult for me to get rid of that few words which I got the news. It was around 12:30 in this country.
So literally I had to go home and inform my mother that this is what's happened, and I couldn't see her. I was literally through a doorway because she had symptoms, and I had to tell her that the hospital decided to turn the machines off, and not being able to hold her hand or even give her a hug at that time, saying that, Dad unfortunately will pass away after the machines switched off. So that was, I think, probably the most difficult thing or a decision I've had to make. Being so close to my dad and knowing him so well and working alongside him, thinking that this will be the last time I'll have any interaction with my dad.
I think dealing with the loss, but I think dealing with the shock of who it is. I mean, yeah, he was our rock. He was the extended family's rock as well. He was the elder. Everybody looked up to him, but he was the rock for the community as well. So I think the shock of it was just that was really.
It was tough. It's been a year now. We're still finding it very hard to come to terms with it, but you got to kind of pick up the pieces, because that's the kind of person my father was. He was a very positive man, and he always said, look, you must think positive of any situation, any given situation. So we're trying to do the best we can, and keep his memory alive. And I think that's the most important thing that we can do.
But the best way for me was to cope through prayers, and we've had many prayers via Zoom. We've had many prayers of sessions online. We've organized majlises, lectures, and trying to remember her in her memory. Organized programs through online as much as we can. We've had prayers of Quran, we've had prayers of du'as, we've had sisters who have performed a ziyarah on her behalf in holy shrines. So, subhanallah, because of the selflessness that she had, she was a very selfless soul. She was a very genuine soul, and hence we find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts this heart, this compassion in people's hearts to remember her. She was not just a cook, she was a beautiful mother, she was a grandma, she became a widow at a very young age. She looked after her children, she educated them, she gave them the best of education, and she struggled and she strived through her tailoring. So she was a tailor, and everything that she did was absolutely phenomenal.
Because everybody has to die one day. This life is short-lived, but on top of that, getting to know and accepting the reality, it was difficult. It was difficult, but I have accepted, because we believe in this, and that every soul have to taste the death, whichever color you are, whichever creed you are, wherever you are on the earth from, you have to die one day. So we have strong belief in it, And that's what I have as well, so that now I know that she's no more, but we can do so much so for her. Still, she is live in my memories.
To reach these communities, we believe the most effective way is to work with community leaders, places of worship, and other individuals who, because of their role, may be called a community champion. As committed individuals, community champions are also well positioned to push back against disinformation and conspiracy theories, and to make policymakers aware of the wider emerging concerns in their community.
I would advise everybody, my friends, my family, get it done, protect yourself, protect your loved ones, and we need to move forward. We need normality back in our lives. And if this is the way it's going to happen through the vaccine, then we should positively take it and protect each other.
The community should get a vaccine because it's not nice and it's not really good to see children not saying goodbye to the parents, wives not saying goodbye to the husbands, and vice versa, and especially when you cannot say goodbye and not saying where they are up to this moment because we cannot visit in India.
It's imperative that we do get vaccinated. Unfortunately, it's mainly the people in my community who have been shying away from getting the vaccination, and that comes down to a lot of social media, these people sitting behind their keyboard and saying you shouldn't take it, it's got this in there, it's got that in there, it's got pork and whatever, and it's not the way we should be looking at it. We should be looking at it a positive way.
Definitely, I would request all the viewers or all the person around that we have to follow the procedure, because when a disease comes, there's a cure for it as well. And this vaccination at the moment is one of the cures. I mean, research is going on, and there are so many things yet to come. But at the moment, this is very, very important. We all should get vaccinated.
That whole situation, and especially when we are far away, I think the heart cannot take it too much. Although we had a soul and a spirit, and that's why we have to stay conscious that people have to be responsible.
Back in our lives. If this is the way forward, get it done. And I would tell people, and I would campaign to my community that, look, you must get the vaccination thing done. It's very, very important, not just for yourself, but for the community and for your family.
Obviously, and I would request everyone who is listening to me that they should go for this vaccine. It is one step towards eradicating this disease.
The message that I would like for my brothers and sisters out there is to keep yourselves safe and protected. It's important that we have the vaccine. It's important that we follow the rules and the guidelines. It's extremely important for us to give safety to others and wear a mask and just follow what is required. And I think that is where humanity can come together.
First of all, look after your life first. Don't put it in risk. And secondly, don't be selfish. Think about your family. Think about your bubble. Think about your friends, your community, the human beings that they are suffering and they can do nothing about it. So I particularly think that you have to have your vaccine as soon as possible. No matter who you are, no matter what religion you are, what color you are, what gender you are, what age you are, please have your vaccine. Good for you, good for the future, good for the world.
How might you cope with bereavement? Each person will cope in their own way, and it is important to know that there is no correct way to grieve. These suggestions might help. Allow yourself time to grieve. If you feel like crying, don't prevent yourself from doing so. This is a normal way to release your feelings, and it is not a sign of weakness. try to avoid depending upon substances such as alcohol, medications, or drugs to help you cope with your feelings. Keepsakes such as photographs or other possessions may be painful to look at early on, but can provide much comfort in the future. If the intensity of your feelings adversely affects your daily life, do not hesitate to speak to a counsellor or to your GP.